The screen fades into endless white stretching beyond the horizon, where wind drifts powdered snow across a landscape that erases every footprint within minutes. Today we reconstruct 3 Arctic expeditions whose final moments vanished into silence colder than physics should allow. Researcher Dr. Karim checks environmental sensors, while Alina calibrates thermal imaging equipment. Both are aware that data here rarely behaves predictably. What force could erase an entire expedition without disturbing their equipment? These are not myths, but documented disappearances preserved within declassified logs and fragmented transmission records. Welcome to Mr. Whisper's Official, where frozen silence is studied like evidence. An unexplained absence is treated as a measurable phenomenon. Our investigation begins with archived coordinates where 3 separate expeditions reported identical environmental anomalies. Alina marks the first case on our projection map, highlighting regions where historical ice movement alone cannot explain structural destruction. Dr. Karim explains that Arctic survival depends on predicting patterns. Yet these events reveal conditions that defy known glaciological behavior. The first expedition dates back to 1922, when a reinforced survey vessel entered heavy pack ice and was never formally recovered. Decades later, fragments of its structure were discovered embedded upright in frozen ridges, as if forced downward rather than crushed laterally. Mechanical components remained intact, but internal logs ended mid-sentence, suggesting sudden interruption rather than gradual mechanical failure. Alina reads aloud temperature records showing stable environmental conditions moments before catastrophic structural displacement occurred. Destruction without pressure signatures contradicts every known model of ice compression mechanics. Dr. Karim notes that hull deformation resembled external thermal softening rather than internal fracture caused by expanding frozen water. That would require heat levels far beyond environmental possibility within sub-zero polar conditions. The second disappearance occurred in 1954 at a remote research station constructed on stable glacial shelf formations. When recovery teams arrived months later, they found the facility fully powered. Generators running, instruments recording normally, and supplies untouched. Yet all 12 personnel had vanished without trace, leaving no footprints, no drag marks, and no signs of evacuation procedures. Alina examines preserved notebooks where daily entries abruptly stop mid-observation. Handwriting trailing off as though interrupted instantly, Dr. Karim emphasizes that flash abandonment without survival gear contradicts every established emergency response protocol in polar environments. Even more disturbing, internal temperature monitors recorded localized heat spikes shortly before all logging systems ceased transmission. These thermal surges reached levels impossible within exposed Arctic air, yet no fire damage or combustion residue existed anywhere. Imagine standing in sub-zero darkness while pockets of intense heat erupt silently beneath the structure supporting your entire station. The third expedition occurred in 2024, equipped with advanced satellite communication, reinforced hull construction, and real-time geophysical monitoring systems. Despite modern technology, the final recorded transmission describes structural vibration without detectable seismic activity in surrounding ice fields. Alina overlays seismic records confirming absolute geological stability during the reported event. Dr. Karim reviews thermal data showing narrow vertical heat columns rising through ice layers from unknown depths below the shelf. These columns form geometric patterns inconsistent with natural geothermal vent distribution. Consider whether such precision suggests random thermal release or directed energy emerging from beneath frozen layers. Satellite imagery from each disappearance reveals another anomaly: atmospheric distortion, obscuring visual data during critical time intervals. Cloud patterns appear stationary, while electromagnetic interference saturates imaging sensors without solar storm correlation. Alina describes this phenomenon as selective observational obstruction, affecting only specific coordinates tied to disappearance events. Dr. Karim compares distortion signatures across decades, discovering identical interference patterns despite technological evolution in recording systems. Something consistently disrupts observation whenever structural failure or disappearance occurs beneath the ice. Our focus now shifts to acoustic data recorded by deep-sea monitoring arrays positioned along continental shelf boundaries. These sensors captured a recurring low-frequency vibration preceding each documented disappearance by approximately 6 hours. Researchers later named this phenomenon the borealis hum, due to its location and sustained harmonic resonance. The frequency remains below standard human hearing range, yet strong enough to produce measurable vibrational displacement within dense ice layers. Lena replays filtered recordings revealing slow oscillations rising gradually before sudden environmental disruption. Dr. Karim explains that such sustained resonance could weaken structural integrity without visible surface disturbance. Yet no natural process produces vibration patterns with consistent temporal spacing across multiple decades. Indigenous oral histories describe deep glacial layers as containing shifting forces that reshape internal structure without surface collapse. Elena carefully notes parallels between these accounts, and modern sensor recordings showing interior ice displacement without external fracture. Scientific models cannot yet explain energy transfer capable of restructuring frozen mass silently from within. The 2025 Seismic Monitoring Initiative revealed another anomaly: localized tremors, originating beneath the deepest known glacial foundations. These tremors lacked typical wave dispersion patterns associated with tectonic movement. Instead, energy remained confined, circulating within contained volumes before dissipating abruptly. Dr. Karim describes this as kinetic containment, behavior rarely observed in natural geological processes. Consider the possibility that energy is being generated, directed, and then deliberately contained beneath insulating ice. Satellite tracking logs show restricted aerial activity near these coordinates within 48 hours of the most recent disappearance. GPS coverage over the surrounding region temporarily failed during this period, producing complete navigational blackout. Official reports attribute the disruption to atmospheric interference. Though solar and magnetic conditions remain stable globally, Dr. Karim reviews leaked technical memoranda, referencing retrieval of unidentified biological matter preserved within subglacial cavities. The documents remain unverified, yet their timing aligns precisely with recorded expedition losses. Environmental monitoring following these retrieval events shows measurable reduction in thermal spike frequency. Lena questions whether removal of subsurface material correlates with temporary stabilization of surrounding ice structures. If true, this suggests activity beneath the shelf influences both thermal and structural dynamics above. Our instruments now detect subtle vibration traveling upward through layered ice beneath our observation coordinates. The movement resembles distant resonance rather than surface wind or shifting snowpack. Dr. Karim measures frequency alignment matching archived borealis. Hume recordings from earlier disappearance sites. Alina notes compass fluctuations, needles rotating unpredictably despite absence of magnetic storm activity. Radio transmissions echo faintly after broadcast, as though reflected through layered density rather than open atmosphere. These mirrored signals distort into elongated tonal reverberations resembling distant human vocalization. Consider what medium could bend electromagnetic communication while simultaneously transmitting vibrational resonance upward through kilometers of ice. Historical exploration logs describe areas where navigational instruments behaved as though orientation itself lost consistent reference. Survivors reported sound traveling upward from beneath their feet, rather than across open air. Dr. Karim suggests large-scale, internal structures within the ice could function as natural acoustic channels. Alina models potential cavity formations capable of amplifying resonance while insulating heat and vibration. Such architecture would require sustained internal shaping over immense timescales. If those structures exist, they transform the Arctic from inert landscape into dynamic containment system. The implication shifts perspective. The ice may not merely preserve what lies beneath, but actively regulate it. Satellite thermal mapping reveals expanding regions where subglacial temperature variance increases annually. Melting patterns appear concentrated along geometric boundaries rather than random environmental exposure. Dr. Karim warns that containment systems lose stability when insulation thickness decreases beyond critical thresholds. Alina overlays melting projections, showing convergence between weakening ice and historically active disappearance zones. The pattern suggests increasing interaction between surface environment and subsurface energy sources. If containment fails gradually, previously isolated systems may begin interacting with atmospheric conditions. That interaction could explain rising reports of anomalous vibration detected across polar monitoring stations. We return to the 3 expeditions whose losses first revealed these patterns. Each encountered localized heat, structural destabilization, and communication disruption within narrow time windows, which reported sensory phenomena inconsistent with known environmental physics, which vanished, leaving equipment intact but human presence erased entirely. Their disappearance may not represent isolated tragedy, but contact with an active subsurface system. Alina observes that human exploration may unintentionally trigger response mechanisms within the glacial structure. Dr. Karim proposes that vibration from machinery, drilling, or navigation could stimulate dormant kinetic processes. If so, exploration itself becomes a catalyst rather than mere observation. The Arctic then functions not as empty wilderness, but as boundary between surface life and contained unknown dynamics. Our instruments register another faint hum rising slowly through layered ice beneath our position. The frequency matches archival data recorded moments before structural failure in previous expeditions. Lena looks toward the horizon where drifting snow conceals depth impossible to measure. Visually, Dr. Karim quietly notes that silence here is not absence, but suppression of detectable activity. The frozen landscape around us appears motionless, yet data streams show continuous subtle fluctuation beneath the surface. If containment weakens as warming accelerates, interaction between surface explorers and subsurface forces may become increasingly frequent. That possibility reframes every historical disappearance as early evidence, rather than isolated anomaly. These frozen records suggest the Arctic guards something persistent, structured, and responsive to disturbance. This is Mr. Whisper's official, documenting environments where absence speaks louder than survival. If you seek evidence hidden beneath silence, subscribe and continue exploring what remains unspoken. Before the white horizon erases our presence entirely, ask yourself one final question. What was the ice truly built to contain?